All right, in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about the process of transformation of my own journey. I came across this Russell Brunson thing he posted on Facebook the other day. Stop describing your process, start describing the transformation. People buy the result, not the recipe. And this is something I know but easily forget, and this works for me too. The buying side, I want to the person is selling it to me. It's not just about the process, but it's more about what it can do, how cool it's going to be when I'm living in that process or whatever, the whole transformation that comes on the other side of it and stuff. And I tend to find myself logically reverse engineering why my offer, which is called SEO Affiliate Domination, is a good offer, and it's just such a no-brainer for me being on the other side. But I don't spend much time at all describing what your life could be on the other side. And I guess it's because I didn't really do the typical internet marketing laptop lifestyle, kind of excessive whatever, kind of living flying on private jets, renting Lambos, or buying Lambos, buying big houses, and extravagant vacations. So I'm just going to kind of break down what it did for me, how I chose to use my freedom, and see if that picture that I paint resonates with you. And if you wanted to do some of those other things, then that's entirely possible too, and you can do it for way less than you might think. You don't need $1 million to live like a millionaire, not at all. So I'm just going to kind of break down my process, and I'm going to kind of try to do my best to show it to you visually, so because I'm a visual learner, and hopefully that will through a timeline will kind of help things click for you. So after things kind of clicked and fell into place for me, which was the spring of 2017. So it's been almost 9 years, so nearly a decade of basically 100% freedom. Just some things that were new to me, because I've always been felt like I had to work. First off, a program was I thought I had to have a job to get money to live, even though I was tinkering and had little hobby monies, internet monies flowing in on the side. I thought I always had to maintain a job to I guess be a US citizen or something like that, even though I've never had even health insurance and benefits at my jobs. They were just freelance and contract jobs, so it was very little money to begin with. And going back to you don't need $1 million to live like a millionaire, or to even quit your job, especially if you're single. The big epiphany for me, and this was 2016, it was the summer of 2016 for me. I was at a job, and it wasn't even 40 hours a week, it was 30-ish at best, and that translated to only about $1,200-ish, I think, in take-home pay. And once I realized that, wait a second, I don't even need to make $10,000 a month. I only the thing that's keeping me going to this 9-to-5 job every single week is not even $5,000. It's not even $3,000. My target number, my goal that I need to replace with passive income is about $1,200, which is crumbs. It's basically poverty, And I was wow. So that became my target, and I think I was already even making more than that on the side, but I just never saw internet money as money. All money is the same, just the name of the game or whatever, how to succeed in life is you just need to find a way to pull in money. It doesn't matter if it comes from a job, if it comes from some freelance thing, flipping books on Amazon, picking up free stuff from Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and selling that. It doesn't matter how you get the money. It's just, do you have a consistent stream of cash flow that's coming in? And it doesn't have to be from a 9-to-5 job. And that was a big breakthrough for me, and because that became my target number, because I was like, well, if I could just create some streams of income that pretty regularly produce that, then I won't have to go to a job. And since I was already doing like affiliate marketing, I was like, I'm already kind of there. I just need to like put in a teeny bit more effort, which butts up against another program in my head. You've probably heard of this one. It's like working smarter, not harder. And for years, I was just beating myself up because I was like, man, is the reason I'm not making 6 figures, 7 figures a year, is it because I'm not that smart? And maybe, but like I know I'm not dumb. So like the kind of reframe there was, hey, in the meantime, while I'm trying to figure out how to get, quote, smarter, I can work, quote, harder, which is basically just put in a teeny bit more effort to doing the things that are working somehow, and by that little bit of effort, I might not be able to 10x it, but I could at least 2x it. And if I could 2x it, that's a big like increase, it was a big increase in my current like lifestyle. So like the difference between 1,200 and like 24 is not that much money, but it's double what I have. So like my lifestyle could increase exponentially, and I knew that was possible. So that's what I started to do. And I want to encourage you, if you're in the same situation of like, man, I can't work that much harder or whatever, don't have the time, like you can work a little bit more. You can't even like 10x your hours, but you can 2x it. That is possible for most people. And so the cool thing about what I was doing was like affiliate marketing through like blog posts and YouTube videos and stuff, is that content is pretty evergreen. So even after I produce it, it's sitting out there, I call it like a hook in the water, and it's attracting fish, attracting people that are interested in that product or service, and there's potential that they may buy it through my affiliate link and convert. And what the benefit of that type of income is that I don't have to like rework harder and start from scratch month after month after month. So quitting my job when I made enough to quit it with this kind of income coming in, it allowed me to continue making money like month after month after month. And what it did was free up all my time, or at least the time I was going to and from work, which is over 8 hours a day for 5 days, which that's plenty of time to 2x my effort now that I have like 8 to really like 10 more hours a day. So about 50 more hours a week. And even if I, only worked like wholeheartedly half of those, then like I could 2x my effort, and that would produce, more money. So anyway, those are a couple of like breakthroughs for me. And then like what that did, I quit my job either at the end of November in 2016 or like the first week of December. And definitely by April, I think March was like the big tipping point month for me, but April was when I received those payouts, I believe. That was all the time it took for me to like compound my efforts and go from just barely making a couple $1,000s a month on a really good month, from like affiliate marketing to over 5 figures a month consistently, and that reality like continued for several years, many years. So just imagine that, like not doing basically anything or not having to do anything, and like once the momentum starts, it just continues like for years. And then what that did for me, and this was kind of awkward at first, it freed up my time, so I didn't number one, I didn't have to do anything. I could literally just sit around my house and like read a book or go for a walk or just other things that they're not that expensive and stuff, but I feel like they're only reserved for stay-at-home moms or people that are retired, because people that I feel are younger don't typically have the luxury of like going to the gym at 10 a.m. or something unless they work a night job, going to get your oil change in the middle of the day when there's no line, going to a movie whenever you want. Like if they have an AM show and you can go in there and probably be the only one in the theater. So it's basically having your own like private cinema for the price of a regular ticket. You can go on vacations when places aren't busy because most people have kids in school and they're at their jobs. So like when it's not spring break or when it's not a vacation, when it's not summertime and stuff. So little things like that, they really enhance your life significantly, and they don't take more money to do. It's just like and going to restaurants a little bit before or a little bit after the lunch rush. You just get like better service, and again, it's like the whole restaurant's to yourself. So you just have a totally different reality than most people. And again, we're not talking about millions and millions of dollars in order to engineer this and for that to be a reality. So was a pretty awesome bonus for me. And then again, since you have more money, and it's coming in on autopilot or semi-autopilot, like you can use it to take trips or whatever, or like I said earlier, you can use it to start a new hobby or like double down on the things that are already working and just like create wealth and abundance even faster, without the pressure of needing it to have to work out. You can kind of tinker and be curious along your path to like trying to increase what you have. So that's a little bit of my journey and my transformation. Hopefully that kind of painted some mental like mind movies for you and stuff. But obviously if it's your dream to like travel full time or something, which that's another like aha moment to me. I thought you had to have lots and lots of money to travel full time, which I lived at Austin, Texas at the time, and it's not, the cheapest city to live in. And I read this book called How to Travel the World for $50 a day or less, and it like opened my eyes to the reality that, if you pick the right like living situations, like living in hostels or maybe even now like certain Airbnbs and stuff, depending on where you want to go in the world, it can act, depending on like whatever city that you're currently living in, it could be cheaper to actually travel the world full time than to live in a more expensive city like a Austin or like a New York or Miami or something. So putting your stuff in storage and like traveling full time, like the most expensive thing is going to typically be like your airfare to get there, but once you're there you can live like a local and actually save money traveling the world full time if that's your dream. So if you want to travel, it's cool. If you want to get some nicer clothes or whatever, a watch, or like lease or whatever, rent, lease, or finance a Lamborghini or something, live in a nice house, like you can buy one, you can get a mortgage with as long as you can make the down payment, or if you just want the experience, you can go live in like a Airbnb mansion for a month or just a week or just a day, like whatever your budget allows. You can get those experiences for far less than it used to take in the past to create that experience for yourself. So a lot can change in a short amount of time with not as much money as you might think. I think anything past like $4,000 or $5,000 is just sets you into a different category, assuming like your expenses are equivalent to that or lower. It just your life can get enhanced quite considerably, because I mean $1,000 can go a long way as far as like entertainment and adventures and things like that. You can go to like concerts or just various activities, restaurants like multiple times a week. Like if you went out to eat once a day, every day, like that doesn't add up to as much as you think. So those are just some things you can do when you have enough money coming in to cover your basic expenses and like a little extra spending money wiggle room, and then your whole like lifetime block or whatever, like because most of your if you're working in 9 to 5 right now, you probably have a lot of things kind of like on autopilot or semi-autopilot when it comes to like billing and things like that. So just imagining just having the whole block of your workday available, that changes a lot of things. Even if you're just like sitting around reading a book, or I don't know, doom scrolling or whatever it is you like to do, you could do more of that. Imagine how that would enhance your life, or just like go for a walk or whatever. Like again, living like a millionaire doesn't necessarily mean you're spending millions. It just means you have the luxury to go do things that the average person can't during the day. So like walking a trail or something that doesn't even cost any money. There's tons of free parks and stuff like that. But just having the luxury of being able to do that whenever you want, that for me, it created a lot of like peace of mind. But it was a process. It took a couple of months for me to just like relax into that reality, because it felt wrong at first, even though no one's got a gun to my head and saying like this is incorrect or whatever, you can't do this. Like you can do anything, you just got to give yourself permission to do it. So that's a little bit about my process. And like I said, the recipe that I use to get there is inside of my course, SEO Affiliate Domination. And you can go to SEOaffiliatedomination.com to learn more about that. And the whole reason I'm kind of making these videos is it's kind of like a going away therapy ceremony or something for myself, just to let you know it exists, but I'm kind of going to be going back into the shadows and probably tinkering and doing more of what you see here. These screenshots are all like of accounts that I've promoted over the years, and that's what really made me happy. I once I had my breakthrough, I wanted to share it with other people so they could have the same breakthrough, but it's not really aligned with my personality and like the way I process information to be able to be the person that's like responsible and have this like super dialed in conversion machine or whatever of a course. I really just like to like tinker in the shadows and crank out content that's kind of like simple and sloppy or whatever. And so if you're not someone who's like super polished and refined and you don't have this elaborate YouTube studio and stuff, like just know that you don't have to have all those things to achieve results like this, or like 5-figure months or 6-figure years or whatever. Like I didn't have that, and I still don't have that, and I was able to produce these results, and my students have been very successful as well. So just kind of sharing, trying to share some value that I've gathered over the years in these videos and leave you guys with something, but also let you know like this course is still around. I'm not updating it anymore, and I just don't like answering those questions over and over again, because the answer is always the same, which is, it takes a lot of time and just energy and enthusiasm and stuff to put together, to like be inspired and put together a course and organize it and just think through like what's the best way to convey this information so that people can learn it and like absorb it as easily so that they can apply it, so that they can actually get similar results to me. And in recent years there's been advancements in like AI, and it's like while that's cool and stuff, and it makes all the stuff I teach like easier, faster, cheaper, it doesn't really change the fundamentals. And so I'm not like, this isn't me like ignoring those people that like would love an updated course, but it's just like, I've been around for long enough to know that like, despite whatever changes happen, the fundamentals of SEO, they don't really change. It's just like the fundamentals, like if email marketing, or the fundamentals of just marketing and sales in general. Like media might change, but like the fundamentals don't. And since the recipe that I teach inside is rooted in the fundamentals, it really, the things that people that know less about like the history of internet marketing and affiliate marketing and SEO, what they're nervous about, I'm not nervous about, because the things that quote used to work, it's not that they still work, it's that they never stopped working. So like as new things, as new technologies and like strategies come along, that doesn't mean that the old ways stopped working. It's just that there's more energy and attention on the new things. So that's, I just know that truth. So and I hope that gives someone watching this some peace, because this is why, one of the reasons why I was so happy once things clicked for me, because I was like, wow, something that I can, that jives with my personality, which is called Neurodivergent. And if you look that up and that resonates, that definition resonates with you, this could do very well for you as well, this process. It's just something that you can kind of tinker with in the shadows and build a passive income snowball that either supplements your income or totally replaces it, and something that you can just kind of work at your own pace, and without worrying so much about like, is this strategy going to go away in 3 months, because that's the worst feeling for me, at least. When I was in my teens and 20s, it was okay. I was okay with like volatility and stuff. But as I got into my 30s, I was like, man, I don't want to have to like reinvent myself or like start over again and again and again. It just got exhausting. I just would rather work on, be able to have the luxury of like being able to work on something a little bit at a time, consistently, and just kind of like build that up over time, and know that traffic source, or that energy, that money flowing into that streams of money flowing into my bank account aren't just gonna like dry up or go away completely overnight. And this is what this strategy, this system has provided for me. So you can go to the homepage, SEOaffiliatedomination.com, and learn more about it. There's some testimonials that you can check out there. I just put up some logos for all the different, these are just some options, some suggestions of affiliate marketplaces and the kinds of products that can and will work good with my strategy. If you go to you can opt in. There's some buttons on the homepage where you can opt in, and you'll be taken to this webinar page. But if you don't want to enter your email, you can just go to SEOaffiliatedomination.com/webinar. Just watch it. Watch this presentation. This will explain our process, like an overview of the process, and using several different examples of types of products and services that you can promote, just to give you some different ideas, because I just try to put myself in like my shoes from 10 years ago, and I know I would have a lot of questions like, well, does it work for this? Does it work for this? Does it work for this? So I try to highlight some of those types of offers and angles to let you know that yes, here's how it will work. Not only can it work, like here's how it would work. Here's how it would work for that type of product. Here's how it would work for that type of product. And then, if you click here to become our next success story. This is just the purchase page, and I wanted to highlight these like buy now, pay later options. So Kajabi integrates with Afterpay, Klarna, and so this is the price. But if you want to stretch out your budget, I would budget for at least this amount, even if you're not going to pay it all up front. But like, if you use one of these buy now, pay later options, I'll get this amount up front, and you can use the remainder balance as a budget to implement what you learn. So if that's kind of where you're at in life, that's fine. You can select one of these, and I guess it has some different payment options, but one of them is 4 interest-free payments for $250. So that that would give you like $750 to implement, which is more than enough. And these are some other things that are included in the training. The core training, this is what it looks like. It looks like a lot, but it's actually not very much, or doesn't take very long to go through. Each of these little sections or lessons are just a few minutes each, and so I did that on purpose too, so it wouldn't like be so long that it bored you or whatever, that it's so long to go through, because my goal is like speed of implementation for you, so you can get results as quickly as possible. So that's the way I designed it. And then definitely recommend going through these mental models. This is really what sets me apart from other SEOs and other marketers. This is how I think differently about this information here. So that's going to give you an edge. And these are the other bonuses that are included as the original SEO AD. This is the original process. This is the updated process. It's a lot shorter course to go through. Domination Labs, which is several offer recommendations, because that's a question that several people had in the beginning in the first course, was like, what offers work well, what are some examples of offers that work well, and so I give you several of those in this training. And then this is pretty cool, this Credit Secrets Masterclass, which gives you some insights into like credit cards, how that works, which kind of brings me back to this timeline that I mentioned in the beginning. So just to kind of give you a visual of like what you could expect, this is kind of how it worked out for me. So this, this. So I'll do it like this, so I guess you could say like this is my journey here. This is kind of like what the length of time that it took me to like acquire all these skills, just kind of like fumbling around. And this surprisingly didn't take as much time as I thought. Some people say it takes like 10 years 10-year overnight success or whatever, but it really only took 6 to 7 years, which felt like an eternity when I was in it, but looking back, I'm like, that actually wasn't too terribly long. But this, why I wanted to throw this out, or kind of include this in the journey of like what to visually wrap your head around, is this is what my course replaces. So this is like how long it took me, and it may take, if you're starting from scratch, it may take you that long to kind of sift through various teachers. A lot of them aren't even like around or public anymore. That the ones that I learned from, they're in kind of the shadows. They've just gone away and do other things. So this is kind of what my course replaces. It's a lot of not just the SEO learning and tinkering, but this credit secret stuff. This is stuff that I learned just not from a book or a course. This is just I learned on my own, through my own experience and stuff. So, and that's kind of what this, I guess, section represents here, is like credit. because this is how I bought. I'll write this down. So how I would create the pockets of time for myself, which is like right here, was I would use like credit cards, a mixture of like credit cards and loans to borrow, so to buy my time, to give me the time and sometimes the budget if I needed it to implement what I'm teaching inside of my course. And that's why I include that training. It's only like 1 or 2 videos that it kind of goes over what I've learned about credit and how to get credit and where to get it and loans and stuff like that, and what factors affect your credit score and things like that. Because that was, I'm sure that is a concern to somebody out there that's like starting from like quote scratch, or they don't have like lots of leverage and their job doesn't pay them much. That's what I use to create that pocket of time to allow me to just focus and quote grind or whatever, which was not really the reality, but just kind of tinker consistently until things worked out. And believe it or not, once I had confidence in my process, which doesn't mean it was like super duper like refined and I'm a genius or whatever. It was just having confidence in a simple process and being okay with the fact that it was simple and that it didn't need to be more complex. And I got that was by talking to other SEOs that had more financial success than me, but either knew less technical stuff than me, or if they knew it, they weren't bothered by the fact that their process either didn't include it or they weren't experts with those things, like buying backlinks or something, or like knowing how to build their own backlinks. They didn't stress out about the things they didn't know or weren't doing. So that is key. So that's another benefit of the training, is that you don't really have to change anything with it. That my most successful students are people who are newbies that come in and don't try to compare it against past trainings they took and measure it that way. They just learn it, don't question it, implement it. And even with the types of offers that I recommend, they'll literally pick the same offer and promote it using the same process. And several of my students have done that. Several of my most successful students have all done the same thing, which is learn the process, implement the process, don't add steps or take away steps to the process, and use the process to promote the exact products and services that I tell you to promote. Like, if you stick to that, it's going to be hard to not get results. And then what this represents over here is the freedom that it produced. So, this isn't like super sexy and colorful images and stuff, but like this is what I want to highlight here. This is freedom. This like 3 months of effort, which is just like a teeny bit of effort. It wasn't even like 10 hours a day or whatever for 90 days straight. This is like 7+ years of freedom. So to me, I think that's a pretty good trade-off. And not just freedom, but like freedom in time plus 6 figures, and most of that profit payback is more than enough to pay off all my debt that I ever accrued, which was hundreds of thousands of dollars, and still being able to like clear hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit on top of all that debt I needed to pay back. So I wanted to share this visual freedom timeline just so you can kind of like wrap your head around like what could this look like. I mean, can you even imagine like 7 years, close to a decade of freedom for such little effort? And then like, you don't have to go through this phase because, I've already done it for you, and I've already put what I've learned into this course, which just costs this amount. That's the investment, and in exchange you get the same strategy and system that allowed me with this short amount of time to create this amount of freedom. And several of I don't know all the success stories, but the ones that my students that have like raised their hand and come back to me and said thank you, and like they went from a similar situation to me than I was in, to not just making money, but like living a life of freedom for themselves or their families. It was very similar, it's a very similar journey. Like, and a lot of it is just raising your consciousness, awareness, reframing some things about like what is acceptable, and that's kind of the most challenging part, because your identity is changing basically. So a lot of things that used to be true, as you get more money, those things change, so it's like phrases like hard-earned money, well, for years I was like, I'm not earning money in a hard way, but it's still coming in, so like, is that wrong? Is that bad? Am I a bad person for having money that is not hard at all? It's coming in pretty effortlessly, and I don't have to keep rolling the ball up the hill down the hill to get momentum. It's just rolling on its own after you kind of build, a passive income pipeline, or put enough hooks in the water. So hopefully you got some value out of this video and me sharing my story. Hopefully help you kind of like visualize some freedom and possibilities of things that you can do when you are like free and on the other side of your like 9-to-5 jobs, which for me it just kind of felt like a prison. I was never living any kind of abundant life inside of working at a 9-to-5 job, and not because my job sucked, it just I didn't have enough cash flow, like freedom, leverage there to wiggle room to like tinker and invest and take a trip or go to a nice restaurant. I just didn't have that luxury, and this is what this process has enabled me to do. So that's why I put together this course originally. So hopefully, or to like, it's for like the younger version of myself, all the other little 15-year-old, like 10 to 15 years ago Gregs that are out there that they can't see a future for themselves working 20, 30, 40 hours 40 years at the same job. I just couldn't imagine that. It just seemed like torture. So I'm here to recording this video to let you know, like, there is another way, or there's lots of other ways, but this is one of them. This is the way that worked for me, and this is a way that can help you significantly collapse time, and it doesn't have to take as long as you think, and you don't have to be rich in order to get started. Like, you don't already have to have a good job, good high-paying job in order for this to be a reality, because that was never the case for me. So hopefully that encourages you, inspires you, and if you want to have this be a potential reality for yourself, and the only reason I say have any kind of hesitation whatsoever, it's not like me being unconfident on my end, it's just that the reality of why most people don't get results is they never go through they never buy the course to begin with. The ones that do never go through it. The ones that go through it never implement it. The ones that implement it give up too soon, and all those things. So it's a potential. Everything I describe is a potential possibility reality for you if you just, I won't say call it even work. It's gonna be probably a tiny learning curve because it might be new to you, but a lot of other things in your life were new at one point and you learned them anyway. And so this is not hard. This is something that can be understood, and once you understand it, you're going to get more confident in it, and your results are going to get better and better and faster. And to me, it's just worth it. It's one of the few methods that I know that can collapse time, that don't, like, in the fastest way possible, is like a very small budget. Like, it's not like starting a McDonald's franchise. Yeah, they have a dialed in system, but you need, like, I think a couple of $1 million at this point to just buy into that proven system, and you basically created a job for yourself. So I don't think that's what most people want. So if you're a solopreneur, or like want to be a solopreneur, you're like an individual, like want to be a one-man, one-woman show, or if you want that, and don't have any desire to build some kind of like team or company, you just want to operate by yourself, and you want some freedom, flexibility, and leverage, then this is a recipe and a system that can help you build that for yourself, so you can create the lifestyle that you want to design for yourself. And again, all that can be engineered for way less than you might think. And a good exercise for that is to just sit down, tally up what it is you think you might want, like what would be an ideal lifestyle for you, tally up all those numbers, and then work backwards from there and start chipping away, like start building a micro income stream to create or fund each of those things. And you'll see for yourself that you don't need as much money as you might think in order to create a really awesome lifestyle for yourself. So thanks so much for checking out this video and watching till the end, and I will hope you got some value out of it, and I will see you in the next one.